And then one of the research to approached by Petronas to set up dia punya predictive maintenance. And then I realized that it's commercialized yet lah.
Hi, Prof. and Dr. Afnizam Faisal. The forum will be start now. So, okay, IDT, we can proceed.
من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to technologist Dr. Afnizam Faisal Abdullah, Senior Lecturer, School of Computing, Faculty of Engineering, University Technology Malaysia, and Engineer Technologist Mr. Haji Muhammad Hanifah bin Haji Abdul Hamid, an Adjunct Professor at University Technology Malaysia. Today, we are feeling very excited to have both experienced figures in our session this morning. We are going to have a wonderful sharing session, and before moving on, let me introduce our panels for today. Dr. Afnizam Faisal Abdullah, he graduated with a bachelor's, master's and a doctoral degree in computer science from University Technology Malaysia. He has been a deputy director of UTM Big Data Center, which responsible in the development of research in big data analytic and data science for public services, industry, and community. Besides that, he is also a co-founder and chief executive officer for Synapse Innovation Sendian Berhad, which responsible for developing business on artificial intelligence and machine learning in the cloud infrastructure for smart manufacturing, agriculture, and healthcare. Apart from his career, he also had gained several recognition, national and internationally. He also involved in numerous projects and research with industry such as Petronas Refinery and Petrochemical Corporation and government such as Malaysian Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation mostly. For Prof. Hanifa, he graduated with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from University of Glasgow, a master's degree in public health and environmental control engineering from University of Strathclyde, Scotland. Prof is a professional engineer registered with the Board of Engineers Malaysia, and his last position was the COO of Indah Water Consortium until October 2020. His main areas of expertise are in infrastructure developments, water and wastewater management, and also river management. He was the first Malaysian selected by the British High Commissioner to undergo an intensive management program at the Templeton College, Oxford University's Business School in 1997. Prof is a member of various professional institutions which includes the Chartered Institution of Water and Environmental Management UK, the International Water Association UK, and Vice President of Malaysian Water Association. Prof also sat as the Industry Advisory Panel in Engineering at University Malaya, University Teknologi Mara, and University Islam Antarabangsa Malaysia. He is currently still actively involved with UTM and UTP and is also an adjunct professor in UTM. Recently, he had been appointed as an accreditation board member at Chartered Institution of Water and Environmental Management, UK. Before we begin, let us watch a video provided by our sponsor, ION and CSQ. Enjoy. First and foremost, on behalf of the organizer, I would like to thank our panels for gracing our screens today with their presence. But before we begin, I think it's polite if I introduce my name as well. I am Haris, a third year PhD student in the field of biotechnology. To be honest, I am really glad to be back here, although virtually, to help my friends and team in School of Graduate Studies SPS. This really brings back a lot of memories as a student who were actively involved in programs, events, and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let us clear our mind and be ready with a pen and paper because today we are given about 1.5 hours to sit in this session. I believe what we're going to see and hear today will be very useful and beneficial to students and researchers alike. We might want to recap the title of this forum again, which is The Transition from Research to Industry, Master Plan to Triumph the Change. Actually, the title itself is giving me quite a goosebump. So, from what we have been observing nowadays, higher institutions who are conducting research, they are likely to carry out fundamentals instead of products and product development. And therefore, we are not seeing a lot of visible products coming out of our universities. There could be many reasons to it, and we are going to discuss those in our session today. On the other hand, our country is already inflicted with COVID-19 pandemic, and we are still struggling to get by. And thus, there comes the master plan to adapt, to evolve, to assimilate, and to innovate so that we are able to change accordingly. So, what are these plans or tips to change? I believe I can leave that to our panels to answer. But before that, I would like to remind all viewers today to put your questions in the comment section in the Facebook Live or YouTube. And later, we will go to your queries during the Q&A session at the end of this forum. I hope our panelists are ready. So without further ado, let us start with the first query. So our first question, I would like to point this out to Dr. Faisal. So Doctor, your biography has been introduced just now. So most of us have known that you own a company called Synapse Innovations in Berhad, isn't it? So however, as a fellow panelist, do you mind sharing a little bit of your work and services which your company are providing? So please welcome, Doctor.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Haris, for the very generous introductions for me and my backgrounds. I also would like to thank you and we welcome to our panels, Hanifa, to be aboard today. And okay, let's straight away to what been addressed by our moderators. Okay, our company, Synapse Innovations in Berhad, was established in 2019 with the aims to commercialize our research in AI and big data into the industry. One of the technology that we have developed is on the predictive analytics that we delivered to the industry in the form of predictive maintenance. And our clients is mostly on manufacturers. So we're doing B2B, business to business. That means that our clients are those are doing business as well. So what we do back then, we able to develop platforms and AI platform that able to predict which machine is going to fail before it fails. So this is able to help our clients to reduce their operational costs, avoiding downtimes, and alhamdulillah, we're able to save them millions of ringgit Malaysia during that time. And just to share with you, we developed the solutions before COVID-19 happened. And during 2020, we can say that our platforms able to help their operation as well, because those engineers that are working on the machines doesn't have to be on site. And the platform able to predict the performance of the machines. And we can say that we able to help them to ensure the productivity of their business. So that's a little bit about us. So I guess coming back to you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Faisal, sorry. That is very interesting services, and I believe your customers are very satisfied with it. So moving on to our second panel, Prof. Hanifa. So Prof, you have been a civil engineer in most of your lifetime, especially in Indah Water Consortium Sdn Bhd. And therefore, I believe that the audience would like to know more on your experience and contribution to our national wastewater and sewerage facilities. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Encik Hafiz. Very good morning to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and may peace be upon every one of us. And also, to my fellow panel, Dr. Faisal, glad to have met you. And I understand from what you have briefly mentioned to me that you are into IoT. So I would like to actually look at more of AI, sharing of knowledge, and probably would like to be in contact with you later on. So back to the moderator just now, the question posed on me was on civil engineering. Okay, so just sit back and listen. I like to actually share secara santai, and how civil engineering have actually evolved over the years, and myself, how I've been involved in the journey itself. So if you sit back and look around, everything you see around you involves engineering, and very in particular, it involves civil engineering. Whether your campus, your school, your playground, your bridges, whatever you see, your drainage system, the roads, the highways, everything involves civil engineering. But when I was still schooling, my ambition was never to be a civil engineer. I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. So I applied to a few universities. I never got a chance to do aeronautical engineering. So I went into civil engineering. So civil engineering, as you know, is very broad. And my first step towards civil engineering is when I joined UTM to do a diploma in civil engineering way back in 1978. Probably Haris was not born yet, So that's where I started civil engineering. And when I started in the first year, moving on to the second year, I find there's a lot of interesting stuff involved in civil engineering. So I got more and more interested, in particular, very interested in structure design, whether it's concrete design or steel design, and also got quite interested in hydraulics. There's a tough subject, fluid mechanics and thermodynamics, but when you are studying, you don't realize why we need to study all this. There's too much of science, physics, and mathematics in there. But when you go and join the real world, then it will tell you that the fundamentals are very important for you to sit strong and contribute to the progress of the industry. So in UTM, one of the tagline when I joined was untuk Tuhan dan manusia. It's also UTM, untuk Tuhan dan manusia. Sekarang dah tukar dah. Sekarang dia panggil, I think, kerana Tuhan untuk manusia. I think there's a controversy thing which was debated, Anyway, when I was at UTM, one of my lecturers was yang berbahagia Fadil Ustaz Fadil Noor. He left UTM and became the president of PAS. So I'm sure he also brought in a lot of divine teachings, for the students of UTM. So one of the things which he taught was, you must behave like a Khalifa of the universe. And when you take a role, everybody can be a Khalifa, So it's for you to actually contribute. So through civil engineering, I think you can, are able to contribute to the many things that evolves mankind, that will actually help and develop mankind. So after completing my diploma, of course, being a City Hall scholar at the time, City Hall of Kuala Lumpur, I started working with the City Hall, and I was involved in a lot of engineering. But during the course of work, I find that many parts of civil engineering, like I told you that I was very interested in structures, in highways and so on, But when in the real working world, these areas are actually quite saturated. If you talk about new developments, new research, there's a lot of research being done and very saturated. And within the civil engineering sector, one of the left behind sector was, although this is the most uh, ancient sector, but it's still a little bit backwards compared to the rest. And this is surprisingly the water sector. I think ever since mankind was on planet Earth, they all required water, But unfortunately, water was taken for granted, and the water sector remains backwards compared to many other sectors, if you study the science of water, the water which we have today in planet Earth is actually the same volume as hundreds and millions of years ago. Even the dinosaurs' days, the water which the dinosaur drank is probably the water which we are also consuming today. But bulk of the water, as you know, 70% is in the seas and the ocean. Uh, Only 2% are in the river, and we have been over exploiting this resource and never doing enough research in this area. And hence, today we have water stress, pollution, and so on. So I decided to go and specialize in water management. I ended up doing river management in Kuala Lumpur as a City Hall engineer. I was responsible for cleaning up the rivers in Kuala Lumpur. And at that time, the mayor, Tan Sri Lasoma, sent me to UK for a sabbatical to study how they clean up Thames River. As you know, Thames River is the key river passing through London. So I had a one-to-one sabbatical, with the person who was responsible in cleaning up Thames River. So after going through that sabbatical training, when I came back, I put up a report, to the mayor saying that this is what needs to be done if you want to see the rivers in KL clean. So after I submitted the report to the mayor, I was transferred to the sewerage department. Guess why? Because in London, Thames Water took close to 100 years to clean up the Thames River, and one of their key uh, action plan was to improve sewerage coverage in the whole of Greater London. Greater London is beyond the London city, so that whatever pollution which comes through the drainage system and the river system, you get cleaned up in the process. So that's how I went into specialization of sewerage. And that's how, Mr. Moderator, you mentioned my life in the water. I left City Hall at the a young age after working for them more than 13 years to start up this new entity. So I was involved in India Water from the date of their birth, which was in 1994. And I've served them for 25 years with a clear line of sight what to achieve for the country. So if I stayed back in City Hall, I would have actually focused on only Kuala Lumpur. But because I've joined India Water, I contributed nationwide. And so in this long journey, I looked at improving the water, the environment, and also moving towards the what they call sustainable development goals. There's 17 targets there, which later on in the forum I will actually give some exchange of ideas. There's plenty more to be done in this area, and if you want to do research, if you want to transform research into industry, what are the tips which I could share with you, to set up a master plan to actually time the change. So back to you, Hafiz.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Wow, that's quite a lifetime of story. I'm sure those journeys are very memorable and have made who you are today, isn't it? So that is very great. So let's us move to the second round of our question, and we're going to move back to Dr. Faisal. So, Doctor, people in UTM know that you belong in the AI, Big Data, and Cloud Computing in Big Data Center UTM. And thus, what drives you to bring out your expertise into a working company for commercialization purpose? Please welcome, Doctor. Doctor, please unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for the questions. So, by the way, it's a very terrific journey for Hanifah regarding his journey as a student to industries. And yeah, I also not been born yet during your times entering the universities. So just to mention that I'm still young or no. So okay, all right. So coming back to the questions. Okay, all right. How do we able to do the commercializations? Yeah? And what's the importance of commercializations, especially in the terms of AI, big data, and cloud computing? What drives us, or what drives me to bring this technology into the commercialization purpose? So for me, in my point of view, research need to be completed by commercializations. We can see back then in the US, in the state, where all this research that conducted in the top university like Stanford and whatnot, what they do is they deliver the research into the commercialization, which what we can see now in the semiconductor industries like Intel, whatever. It's all come from the industry, from the research. And for me, my understanding about research is every research that we do must be completed by commercialization. It's like the commercialization is like a graduation for any research that we conduct in universities. But at the same time, we also understand that the research that we conduct, we produce back in the universities, never be and never can be competed with those in the markets. We cannot say that what we do in the universities are not valuable, but we can see that it's different when I living in these two worlds, academia and also in industries. I really can see the difference, because back then in the academia we focus on how to develop the solutions, solving the problems in the academic way, and for the industries, they are looking into how they want to make deliver the solutions into the practical part, or in terms of how people can use the solutions right away. So these are two different paradigms, two different expectations and whatnot. So back then when I started to commercialize my product, I also realized that we cannot compete with Google, we cannot compete with Microsoft, we cannot compete with all of these giants. And it's quite impossible, because when we deliver a product or a commercialized product to the society, we need to not only to think about the product or what we are going to solving, we also need to think about our customer service. We need to know about how much human capital that we need to customize the product and deliver to the clients completely, and how to make sure that the customer journey always satisfied with our service. So it's beyond of what we are doing back in the lab. So from there, we realized that one thing that we know we able to do is by complementing what the services or what the product have been done by these giants or those in the industries, the top guns of the industries. We need to come as a complementary. So from there, I realized that one way how we want to bring the research into the industry is by asking those big giants what their problems currently having. Okay? just to share with you, for the manufacturing itself, tier 1 and tier 2 industry, like those multinational companies like Shimano, like Intel, whatsoever, they have a huge factories in Malaysia, and of course they have a lot of departments. And for engineering itself, they at least have 3 departments that look into on the part of product development and also on the part of operationals. So we need to tap at which departments that we able to serve or to bring our services, to bring our research into solving their problems. For example, when we started Synapse Innovation Center Berhad, we look into how to solve the operational side. So the problem that we are solving that during that time is they're having a problem to identify the root cause of the downtime. So based on the software or based on the product that they are using during that times, they need to buy or they need to purchase a new plugin for that particular features only, and it costs them a lot. So from there, where we come in. So we complement. We are as a we come with our service. We come with our product as a complementary for what they are needed during that time. This is how we see that there's a supply and demand between the universities and the industry, especially in Malaysia. And so this is very important for us to deliver our product or our research to in the industries. We need to see what people need, and we need to identify the supply and demand of our research, and what our research can able to help them in the industries. This is majorly important. Back then, when I deal with some big company in Malaysia, they say that we cannot able to bring your research or whatever as a product of our company, because our company also has R&D back in their origin countries. But we need your help because we need your brain, because to hire someone outside of Malaysia with your brains is very expensive. And this is where we can see that why Malaysians having this difficulty to get our graduates to be employed, especially for the postgraduates, because we don't identify the supply and demand issue. So if you as a postgraduate students, you need to identify your capacities on complementing yourself into the industries. That's the value. That's the value that you need to identify, you need to address, that make you able to success to bring yourself from the academia into the industries. So I guess that's all for me. So coming back to the moderator, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Faisal, for the insight. So I think it is not easy as it seems, right? So it needs a thorough and complementary subjects and operation. And I believe that spin-off companies are likely to be the main effort from the university to commercialize products and services from our researchers. Okay, now moving on to Prof. Hanifa. So Prof, as an industrial figure for a quite long time and who is not in academia, what is your expectation of products and services which should be developed or provided by research universities in Malaysia? Please welcome, Prof.
Okay, thanks again, Haris. I think before I answer the question, because if you allow me to speak, I can go on speaking for long. I understand this program stops at 11:30. For each of the question, roughly how many minutes can I speak?
About 5 minutes. I think it's enough.
That's short.
Yeah.
So in the short time frame,
because we're going to have a Q&A later, Prof.
Okay,
From
I think
the
the first point I like to stress is I totally agree with Dr. Faisal that research and development should not stop or end at the shelves. Research and development must be commercialized. So probably there will come a time that if you cannot put this into practice, then maybe the research is not valid. So there's a big difference between applied research and fundamental research. While fundamental research is very important to unveil the science behind certain things, but I think we have to look from the practical point of view. So if you look at the problem statement and see if you can solve that problem and come up with some findings, some products which can actually resolve that issue, then that is a successful research. So going back to the industry, I think that industry and institutes of a higher learning collaboration must start from the very start, from the very beginning. So in Malaysia, of course, the scheme in Malaysia, a lot of the lecturers, they are actually start in the university and complete in the university. But if in many developed countries, you can see that a lot of the professors are actually people from the industry. So we need this transformation if you want to actually compete with the of course the fundamental is very important, but at the same time the hands-on experience is also equally important. So by having that, then you give that motivation to the students to actually unveil a lot of the so-called hidden treasures which can be transformed into product. Now in my journey in that wastewater industry, I've actually set up own training centers. I've set up own museums. So museum is to actually understand the past and to actually bring in all the artifacts, including the products, to showcase that this is how things were done before, this is how things are done today, and maybe we need to look at things for tomorrow. So that's the role of the museum. And of course, I've also set up research centers, which has a collaboration with almost all the local universities, both private and public. And this will have close contact between the industry and the universities. I think universities is where you get the real resources to do the detailed works, whereas industry can bring that problem solution, problem statement, and then can apply back the problem statement into a solution. So this is where I think so if I can give, since I only have 5 minutes, if I can give a challenge to whoever the viewers, participants in this program today, you just look at the simple innovation. I remember probably about 15 years or so ago, maybe in 2005 or just before 2005, when someone came to me and said that, look, now you got phones which can see your face and can communicate. I couldn't believe that, but it was not in Malaysia yet. It was already, those days I used to carry Motorola phone, which was, kalau baling pun anjing boleh pengsan, that's how big the phone was. Today you got phones which are actually very, very compact. These are product innovation, So when they said you can speak and see the voice like what we are doing now, without entering a conference theater or lecture theater, we can communicate from everywhere. I'm sure all of you are in different locations, some even in Johor and outstation, So this is technology, and this is a product put into real useful for the mankind. So coming back to my industry, one of the basic thing which every one of us use, and this is one of the first thing which you use, before even you get out of your room, is the toilets. Now, if you look at the toilet, what is the product which you can actually develop? Okay, of course, everyone knows Mr. Bill Gates, and of course, Dr. Faisal, very involved in AI. Mr. Bill Gates, everyone knows he's the Mr. Microsoft. Now, if you Google and see what he's doing today, he's already moving away from Microsoft. He's going into toilet innovation, because when these are real innovators. He didn't go to college, he didn't go to university, but he thinks, So not necessarily you have to go to the university to develop a product. So you have to look at on the ground what is required, and then be creative and be innovative. So what he did is he went around to many countries, many Asian countries and many African countries, and he found that one of the basic needs of human being which is left behind is the toilet. And then what he did is he went to a conference in China in 2018 with a jar. In this jar is the jar is this big, is full of wastewater from the toilet. So he put it on the rostrum, and he said that in this jar there's about 200 trillions different type of microbes and bacteria. The challenge moving forward is to study this and come up with innovative ideas on how to resolve the basic human needs, which is the toilet. Today, if you go to the toilet, after using the toilet, you only produce this amount of waste in the toilet, so small. But you use a lot of water to flush it through the sewer system and ends up back to the environment. At the end of the pipe, you got a bigger problem to resolve. You have to solve that huge volume of wastewater to be treated. Now, what Mr. Bill Gates did is, he said, I challenge everyone to solve the problem at the toilet itself, on the site. You don't have to flush, whatever the waste can be converted into byproducts, into pellets, into reused water, So he created a competition in the United States. He funded $200 million US. They all came out with innovative toilets. That means you don't have to flush. You create, the business is done at the toilet itself, But the end product, currently it costs about $50,000 US. $50,000 US is about 200,000 Malaysian. So it's not affordable. So his current challenge is, just like the handphone, he said, now look at the innovation where you can commercialize it. So if you can get it to $500 US or even $5,000 US, I think it's affordable for a home. And this is what he's working on now. And I think 30 years from now, the toilets which we have today might be different. This is a product development. So I think when you are in the university, both the professors and the students, they have to look at this sort of the future, and then start developing products which won't be realized today or tomorrow, but will be useful, in years to come. So that is, I think, what is required to be creative.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So a product can be as simple as a toilet, I believe, but at the same time, we need to be innovative and creative. So that's it for this round. Let's move on to the next round. The next round is basically we want to hear your insight on the graduates and fresh graduates from our local universities itself. So let's go to Dr. Faisal again. So Dr. SN Academia, do you think our local universities have provided adequate syllabus and research skills to the future graduates in preparing them to contribute to the industry? So the contributions might be in the form of products, services, and so on. Please welcome, Doctor.
Thank you for the questions. Before I answer the questions, let's go back and see the role of the universities, why the university is established. Atau dalam bahasa Melayu dipanggil peranan universities, or what they call as the establishments of the university. Okay, one thing that I remember when I was in school, I've been informed that the university was established because to develop the human capital in the nations. A nations without universities, this means that we can say that the nation doesn't have any future, because we are not producing future talents or whatnot. So I would like to cite back what Prof. Hanifah mentioned earlier before we start when we introduce ourselves. The main objective of being a student or being an academia or student or whatever what we think we're going to do is being a Khalifa, a leaders in the world. When we talk about Khalifa or a leaders, and that means that our young graduates will be a leader in the futures. Okay, so when talking about leaders, when we talk about leaders need to able to think, able to have some kind of visions on producing something or solving problems to start with. So now we're coming back to the questions on whether the syllabus is okay or not. So we need to understand that for a program that undergraduates, universities are expected to produce thinkers, not workers. So when we talk about thinkers, it's something like we are going to produce someone that can think, that can when they have the problems, bring the problems in, they need to think and they need to produce a solution out of that. And that's, I guess, that apply to postgraduate students as well. So for me, what we have served or what we have offered to the students back in the universities, especially in UTMs, our syllabus are already adequate on the part of producing these thinkers. When we go back to the industries, they also always say that UTM students are very fantastic on solving the problems. But of course, there's a limitation, especially on communications. So yeah, we bring that later on. But the point is, we success on developing problem solver leaders that are able to think and are able to solve the problems as soon as possible. But coming back to the question where whether the syllabus is educate or not, why UTM or why most of the top universities, especially including back in MIT or Stanford or Harvard or Oxford, they still teaching fundamentals, because from the fundamentals, the students are able to solve the problems in the most practical way. Because we need to understand that science happens. Science is based on our understanding about the nature, about anything that the process happening inside of certain behavior whatsoever. And from here, we're able to develop the high-level thinkers that think in the fundamental way into the practical way. But we need to know, we need to evaluate, we need to assess the student whether they can relate what they learn back in this classroom into the practical into the practical. That's why we have assignments, we have mini projects, and we have FYP. So for me, when I deal with both in academia and industries, and when we start to employ our staff, which come from many universities in Malaysia, we realize that identifying the best talents with the high pointers would help us to get talents that able to think. And for me as a business owner, for example, it helped me to sleep during the night, because I know that my staff able to solve the problems on behalf of the company. So this is the point of view of the employers, if I may share. So coming back to the questions, yeah, university need to maintain on the fundamental teachings, on the part of the fundamental knowledge, but at the same time, especially those programs that involve in technology, they need to have some flavor of adding some kind of new technology, because the technology is very fast. Last time when I was in undergraduate students, we do coding in testpad and whatsoever. No IDE, no Dreamweaver, no whatever, no fitness code, nothing, only testpad. But when I joined the industries after I finished my undergraduates, we were able to learn a lot of tools, and it made our job faster. But the learning curve is we able to learn it in a very fast way, because we have what I can say that during that times we have able to understand the fundamentals, and from there we able to apply when we are in the industry. So but at the same time we need to what I can say that keep up to date with the technology, because after a while when the technology is very fast, 2 days you don't have to code anymore. You only take codes from GitHub, from Stack Overflow, whatever, and then you need to ensure that the codes can run properly. And most of the code can run on the cloud. So, but yet the fundamentals need to be mastered, the students need to have adequate understanding about the fundamentals. This is very important. And that's why universities still maintain on delivering the fundamental knowledge to the student. But at the same time, the students need to able to relate the practical part, the keep up to date with the technology so that they can relate with the fundamentals. Then we're able to have a future talents that really being looked forward by the industry to be hired. That's the value. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. That's very nice sharing. So I believe you support the view of thinkers rather than workers, and that is a very interesting view. So I hope not only this university but the student itself have to behave like a thinkers and not workers. So moving on to Prof. Hanifa, about the student as well. So Prof, undoubtedly you have been interviewing lots of graduates. Do you think our local graduates are well equipped to face the industrial demand, especially in the engineering sector? So please welcome Prof.
Okay, first of all, I'm also a UTM graduate. So I believe I've actually contributed to the engineering sector development. And I can share with you a few other examples. Today, the Minister of Transport, Sri Wika Siong, is a graduate of UTM. So how do you think he will contribute to the engineering sector? He's in charge of the entire transportation, airports, the ports, the MRTs, the LRTs, the highways, Definitely, if he got sound engineering background, he doesn't have to behave like an engineer, but as a policymaker, he can actually drive the engineering sector. It's a very good example. You got another graduate by the name of Tan Sri Anwar Musa. He was aboard my batch, Anwar Musa. He today is the Minister of Federal Territory of Labuan, Putrajaya, and Kuala Lumpur. How do you think he can contribute towards the improvement of these three key major cities? You got another graduate who is the mayor of Kuala Lumpur today, Sri Mahdi Cekna, is also my batch. How do you think he can transform KL using the knowledge which he learned from university? Another minister, Hamza Zainuddin, is a Minister of Home Affairs, also another graduate of UTM. And another very useful graduate of UTM, which everyone in UTM must know him, is Dr. Sri Zaini Ujang. He was also a Vice Chancellor of University, and his first degree was from UTM. Now, today he is the Secretary General of KSU of a ministry who is in charge of the entire, a lot of the engineering inputs. So how do you think he will actually improve? So I will not doubt any UTM graduates. I think when I interview, what I look for is, I think in terms of the fundamentals, they have the depth in terms of engineering. Only you have to be careful of the breadth. Now, the few examples which I've shared with you, they are successful because of their breadth, because they can speak beyond engineering. Now, if you speak only on engineering, then I think I believe you won't go too far. So apart from engineering, you must keep abreast with what's happening around the world. You must be, in touch with all the new policies, directions, and this is where your communication skills, your soft skills, your knowledge on finance, your knowledge on legal matters is also equally important. And if you can articulate well, you can write well, that is the quality. When you look at, when I interview people, if you got a degree, I don't go further, looking at the background of the degree. Now, I don't need an Einstein. What I need is attitude. Now, good attitudes come with all the traits which I mentioned just now. You can communicate well, you have good soft skills, you got willingness to learn broader than the engineering, meeting people and, resolving issues. This will make good engineers in the future. So I guess, since I'm also sitting in the advisory panel of many of the engineering universities, I always tell them, why do you have mathematics 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? When you study triple integration, Laplace equation and all that. When you come to the real working world, of course, only about 10% of what you learn, you apply. While it's important to know all these mathematics 1 to 5, I think you also have to balance the credit hours with more balance. So you will have, the graduate will have a breadth. Many universities, especially University Malaya, some of the graduates are, following this interview, when I speak like that, they are not too happy because they say, no, our fundamentals must be strong. So they are very focused on establishing that fundamental, But I think this is the challenge moving forward. In the real world today, it is fundamentals plus. So you need to know this additional thing for you to be a leader, for you to be successful, and for you to contribute. You don't have to be a leader, but if you are not balanced, you don't have the breadth, it's very difficult for you to contribute in the real world. So that is what I like to share. So in general, UTM graduates are sought after in the market, but I think many of them will lose out because when I also interview, overseas graduate and local graduate, I think some of the UTM graduates are much better. But overseas graduates, sometimes they win on the soft skills. They're able to articulate better, communicate better, and they have broader view of the world. Local universities, between UTM and the other universities, some of the universities, they have more balanced, broader view. So this is what we need to balance.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So I believe the students have to go outside their boxes, and most importantly, they have to have the attitude as a students for them to prepare for the interviews. Okay, we have finished on this round. So let's move on to the next round. I think we still have time. Okay. So let's put our spotlight to Dr. Faisal again. So on this round, basically we want to know your advices and recommendations from the panels. So Dr. Faisal, based on your response previously on the previous question, do you have any useful advices and recommendations for the students to prepare themselves for the industry? Please welcome.
Okay, thank you. My advice is do extra miles. If you learn something from the classrooms, it's not enough. So you need to explore more and do some extra works by exploring other resources, for example, online courses, and also do some micro projects with some of the clients, because that's what I do. I've been a consultant during my undergraduate time. During that time, I also have clients that among of the industries before I graduated, and from there I can say that as a student today, you need to do more besides attending class during your undergraduate time or during your postgraduate time. So this is in principle very important for you to know that what's happening outside, and to relate what the thing that you know in the classrooms and in the universities compared to what they been practiced in the industries. I remember that I learned database during that time. During undergraduate years, I learned there's a subject called database systems, and I have no idea what I'm learning during that time. I'm really frustrated. I'm really upset on what I'm learning. I think that I really the most I can say I'm the most stupid students in the classrooms, because I have no idea what I'm learning at that time. And then I have some opportunity to develop a systems for small shops in the Taman U. And then I realized, oh, this is how we develop the database. So this is how we do the normalizations. This is all the normalization all about. Then I realized that, oh, this is how we able to deliver from what we learned in the classroom, which is the database, the concept, the fundamentals, and into the particular way. And from there, my understanding and my comprehension on the technology is better. So, and during the times, 2005, 2004, we don't have internet. Kalau compare internet dengan semut tu, semut jalan lagi laju. Okay. And, but nowadays, you are really lucky because we have all the resources in front of you, internet and all the smartphones, and you can learn right away. Not to mention that only the thing that you need to learn on your program. For example, computer science need to learn computer science. You need to learn more beyond of your programs. You need to know about project management. You need to know about communications, public speaking. You can learn it everywhere nowadays. So make use of that resources. So that's my resource. You need to utilize your 24 hours because during my times, I utilize 24 hours. I don't have time to sleep. So I hope that answer your questions, moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Faizal. But I believe as students, we all have been through that phase of not knowing what are we learning. But nevertheless, everything has its own result. Yeah. So that's why the university put that as a syllabus and subjects for the students to learn, right? Okay, Prof. Hanifa, let's move on to you. Similar question I would like to ask you in regards to the advices. So what are your suggestions to the universities or to the students to assist our country in technological advancement in engineering especially? And do these universities and students need to differentiate themselves and make themselves more outstanding than others? What do you think, Prof?
Yeah, thanks again, Haris. I think students today are much more lucky compared to previous students, because previous students, I think they totally depend on the lecturer's notes and the textbooks. There's no such thing called internet, Google, all that. No? And maybe during my time, you got to study to pass the exam. But I think the attitude today must change a bit. Passing exam is a must, But I think when you go to the university, you must have a clear mind that you want to specialize in something, and you want to be a solution to a lot of the problems, around. So I think you have to have this mindset, and to get this, I think whatever you learn in classroom, you just have to go back, spend about half an hour, Google what you learn in class. You'll find a lot of things which are actually related. For example, if you study steel structure today, you go back and look at in Malaysia what are the buildings under construction. So you Google, you nampak Menara 118. This is the tallest building currently being constructed, taller than KLCC. Then you look at in that Google, you can see a lot of creative and innovative ideas. So when come to your dissertation or student project or whatever, I think you have to try to apply that concepts, and so while applying this day to day, you will perfect rather than trying to actually study to just pass the exam based on the notes given by the lecturers. I think this is point number one. Point number two is, as a student, I would encourage all students, especially postgraduate students, to be affiliated with professional bodies. I mean, closest to engineering is Institute of Engineers Malaysia, or any other professional bodies. You affiliate yourself as student members. The fee is very cheap, so you get to listen to a lot of talks, free talks. you get to listen to participating in some of their events, you get to read their journals, so it will broaden your mind, you know. And the other thing, the third point I like to stress is the university industry collaboration must be very regular. You know? That means you invite speakers like what you are speaking today. You know, just 1 hour sharing of knowledge in a month or in every other week, every Friday afternoon or something. You know, then the interest will build up. You know, the 4 or 5 years they are in the university, yeah, they see a lot of these things, and then they will start, being prepared for the industry. So when they come out, then you ask, for example, UTP, they're very focused on petroleum. Even the civil engineering faculty, you go, the structures they teach is offshore platforms, drilling, but maybe that's the niche. So for UTM, what's the niche? So then you have to do peer review. I think UTM itself, within their respective faculty, you must compare to all the other local competitors and see where is your strength. And that's where you actually, I think that's how you come out with your postgraduate programs. So when you have that postgraduate programs, these are the additional inputs which you have to actually build up to maintain the niche in that particular area.
Okay, is that all, Prof?
If more time, I'll speak. But I think I'll go on and I'll happy to answer more questions from the floor.
Yeah, I think we have a Q&A session today. I think some of the audience already asked questions, but we leave that during the Q&A. All right, thank you, Prof, for the insights on what should the universities and students do, especially in the collaboration with the industries and outside of universities. Okay, now we have come to the final round of our forum session today before we move on to our Q&A. So in this round, we would like to know the point of view from our panels for their past lives, especially as students or as fresh graduates. So let's move the spotlight to Dr. Faisal again. Doctor, looking back in your experience as a student or fresh graduate, what was your motivation which have brought you to this day? Mind sharing?
Okay, sure. Okay. During my time as a student, both in undergraduate and postgraduates, because I'm UTM on kata everything is for UTMs. Kalau belah tangan saya darah tak darah keluar, dia keluar UTM. Sebab
UTM.
degree, master, PhD dengan UTM. But one thing that I know that I learned everything in the hard way. I realized that I'm from B40 families. My family is not having some trouble with this finance and whatsoever. I need to do extra works with my undergraduates, and then start working to survive, and then being accepted to become a tutor when after years of serving in industries, and then join UTM as a tutor and continue to study to masters. And during that time, we struggling on adapting the research worlds, which is a very unfamiliar during that time for me. And to continue, and then after that, after 1.5 years doing master by research, and then continue my PhDs. I learned everything in hard way, because during that time I already have families, I have kids, I have wife, I need to maintain my family during that time whatsoever. Okay? But one thing that I realized that along the way, I do a lot of mistakes. I do a lot, countless mistakes, and up to today, I realized that I never regret when I make mistakes. So my best advice for you is do a lot of mistakes, because from there you learn on your mistakes. How to talk with others, what the topic that you need to avoid for certain people, and how you want to engage those people, and at the same time you know whether those people like you or not. So based on that mistake that you have done for quite so long. So never afraid to do mistakes, especially for the students, because from there you're able to improve yourself. I remember that when I finished my degree, I cannot talk to people. When every time I want to talk to the people, the entire body will shake it off. It's like I prefer to talk to computer instead of talking to the people. So I do mistakes a lot when talking with the people. Some of my colleagues back in industries doesn't like to talk to me whatsoever because I have some social problems with people. But that's mistakes, and I learn from that. And alhamdulillah, along the way, along the times, after a few years, I keep improving myself. Learn from the mistakes. And one thing that I do during my times as master and PhD is I do networking a lot. So for the student nowadays, like Prof. Hanifa mentioned earlier, attach yourself with these professional bodies. For example, IEEE. You are going to connect with mentors, with those people in the industries. At the same time, you are going to engage with other students in other universities. Make networkings, make friends. Okay, make friends with those and do some networkings. And again, do mistakes. Okay, so you need to do mistake while you do the networking as well. And then from there, one thing that if I come back as a student, one thing that I realized that I need to have mentors. So same goes to you. Mentorship is very important. From there, you learn from other people. There's some quote from Western quote. They say that standing in the shoulder of the giants. That means you learn someone from other people's experience. Okay? So from the mentorship that you have, you are going to learn from the mentor. So the mentors will share with you their experience, and from there you learn more. Okay, and again, you need to do mistakes. Okay, and after that, you need to relate. You need to have something that some activity that you do. You must relate something that may help you to become a problem solver. So yeah, along the way, I realized that there's a lot of things you need to do. But well, we are students, so that's how you do be success. So you need to have a lot of students, need to invest a lot of times, I may say, and yeah, this is something that you need to do based on my past experience as a student. And I hope that will help you to become a better person in the future, inshallah. So come back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Faisal. And the balance of skill set is very important nowadays as for the students. And also to become a jack of all trades are not as easy as previously, but everybody has to do it to become a successful person in the future. So lastly, we move on to Prof. Hanifa. So Prof, we all have inspiration and aspiration. And personally, we would like to hear from you the challenges that you have faced, especially in the industry, and how did you overcome them? Please welcome.
Okay, definitely success won't come without challenges. The more challenges you have, the more success you will actually achieve along the way. So I think the first rule is you must always keep yourself motivated. So don't listen to those people who only, see your mistakes. Move away from all this negativity. Keep a positive mind. Be very passionate of what you do, and you must be persistent. So if you already set a line of sight, when I say line of sight, I think in my example which I quoted, I wanted to actually clean the river. Until today, the rivers are not clean yet. So I'm still fighting the cause with many of my buddies, But to clean the river, you cannot just look at the river. You have to look at many other things, So this is where the line of sight is still there. You have to be persistent. You have to have long-term vision. One day we'll see a blue, clean river where river will be used as a transportation means in the city centers. River will be a recreational area, but to get there, you have to pass through many of these challenges. So the perseverance and the patience is very important. So this is another thing. While you have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't have this, you're not patient, you're not consistent and persistent, and you're still not passionate, very difficult to drive through. So in my case, I think, I looked at the river, I looked at creating a utility from scratch. I think In the Water was created, from a piece of blank paper. Nobody told what to do, how to do it, So a lot of the things were put in place along the way with many challenges, And of course, every time you put something, people look at it as a roadblock. But this is where you have to use your skills and knowledge to actually overcome those and keep persistently, moving along. So what is important is you must have a clear overview to overcome the challenges. Be clear with your actions and your what will be the end game, the beneficiaries, and take the bite steps. Bite steps means apa yang kita boleh makan saja, So walaupun kita ada big picture, today we cannot implement the whole thing. So for today, what you can implement, that's what you need to do. If you try to do, then you will, what you cannot do, then you will drown yourself, So life is really like a book, I think, probably many of us have heard this, There'll be some chapters which are sad, some which are happy, some which are very exciting, But if you don't turn the page, you will never know what are the new challenges waiting in front and what are the new things in store for you to move other things. So when you take the challenge, you will, you will come up with something better and and more satisfying. So I have to have actually gone through a lot of the challenges in life, but I think these are not real miserable challenges. These are things which challenge yourself, challenge your ability, and try to actually make you a better person. So there's no such thing as the journey will be smooth. Every journey will have a lot of different challenges. So part of the skills which you also, that's why when they have universities, I think I agree with Dr. Faisal just now. Why do we go to school? In school, you go and belajar all the basics, fundamentals of life, ABCD sampai, the discipline apa semua. You keluar sekolah, you masuk Menara Gading University. Sana you try to specialize further on the niche area. If you want to be an accountant, you go and specialize. You want to be a lawyer, you specialize in this. But these are knowledge seeking, trade seeking. But when you go to the real world, if you just walk in the pasar malam, whether you are a professor or whether you are the pasar malam seller, you are the same. So how you behave, how you actually carry yourself, that's why you will gain your respect and and your recognition. So this is very important. To at the end of the day, attitude and aptitude is very two key things which will shape your future. So you can be very successful in a short time, but it is short time success. But if you want to be a long-term successful person, you must be consistent, you must be persistent all along the way. So that's probably the a little bit of advice which you can share with young potential future leaders, who don't let the power go to your brain, don't let the power go to your head. So every time remain humble, so that you will be a good component of the society, and people will look after look for you as a society leader and drive the society together. So sekira itu saja untuk kali ini. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I think the audience are happy to hear a lot of sayings and quotes from you. And I think two keywords highlighted by by Prof. Hani for today, which is the aptitude and attitude, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for our forum session today. Now, we will move to our interesting Q&A session from our audience. So we have from FB Live as well as YouTube. I think it's best if you have a question, please note who you want to address your question to, and therefore let's begin. Okay, we have the first question from Muhammad Imran Ismail. He is from School of Electrical Engineering, I believe. I would like to ask our panel a question. Because our research may be a fundamental study, the industry may prefer valuable outcomes to the general public or that are already commercially available. So how do we as a research students advertise and market our research outputs to attract more attention from the industries? I think this question is open to both of the panels. Maybe Dr. Faisal can start first and then
Okay.
move to Prof. Hanifa.
Alright.
Welcome.
Okay, to start with, you cannot commercialize your research right away. Definitely not. Because in order for you to commercialize, you need to identify the needs, what the needs by the target markets. For example, if you are like our moderator here from biotech, maybe this is you. What are you doing right now, Mr. Moderator, for your research?
Basically, my niche area is in nanotechnology, material science.
Nanotechnology, material science. Okay. So nanotechnology, for example, you can come up with a certain product just after you finish your PhD or before you finish PhD, because clearly that research outcomes is not ready to the markets. Okay. So because the readiness has some levels lah. If you go for commercialization part, they have a TRL, technology readiness levels. So definitely on your part, on your research is maybe in the lower tier of this level. So definitely you cannot advertise or market, even sell your research as a product yet. Okay. But along the way, what do you have right now is your skills, your problem solving skills, and yourself. So one thing that you need to promote or advertise is yourself. Make use of all of the social media that you have, promoting that what you are best do. Okay. For example, our moderator is a nanotech. You can advertise yourself. I'm the expert of nanotech in Malaysia for, in particular, what product was able. Okay. And then people, the industry will come to you and ask some guidance from you based on your expertise. Okay? And because you spend 2 years, 2 or 3 years in your PhD or even more, definitely you have something that you have inside your brain or inside you have developed something for yourself. From there, try to promoting what you have learned, try to share what you have learned during your times, and from there people are start talking to you, and from there you are coming some ideas. From there the networking happens, and along the way try to improve your research to be commercialized. I graduated in 2013 with my research on the parameter estimations optimizations using machine learning. I only can commercialize. Some people all are willing to pay my service, my research in 2019. So it's not right away. So you need to have some time to develop your products into some certain level of readiness. So yes, that's my point. It's important for you to promote yourself instead of for your research. Okay, that's my point. Okay, that's it.
Okay, Prof. Hanifa.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the question, Muhammad Imran Ismail. It's a good question. Of course, all the research have to be fundamental based, but in your case, if you're looking at the electricity side, from your fundamentals, you have to actually then explore, on how is it useful for the industry. So in the field of electricity, everyone knows now that electricity bills are actually very high. For example, one example, TNB sells electricity, I think 38 cents or 42 cents per kilowatt. That is expensive. So your electricity bills in a month is $100, a few $100, which you need to pay. So can you, understanding these fundamentals, come up with an idea on how to bring down this cost to say 30 cents per kilowatt? Now, if you can do that, you can actually compete with TNB. You know, TNB is not selling at 5 cents. TNB is selling at 40 cents now. You know? So even if you can sell at 28 cents, you already can commercialize your product. Just now, Haris mentioned you're doing nanotech. Nanotech is the new technology moving forward. You know, I always say in my lectures, you know, that today in the water industry, we are using still the Victorian technologies. When I say Victorian technology, it's the old technologies which uses a lot of resources. Resources, that means big land area, so much of concrete, so much of work resources, so much of money involved, you know. Now, the new technologies are the emerging technologies, which is biotechnology, nanotechnology, you know. Now, if you can actually reduce the footprint based on your fundamentals of knowledge in nanotechnology, that's already a big win. When you actually reduce further the costings and the resources involved, and also unveil new products, these are the benefits. So while fundamentals are actually important, the creativity and innovation is also equally important. Now, how will the students participate with the ongoing industry? I think one of the ways is uh, involved in conferences and seminars, and also report writing. There's many journals and publication. You write journals, and then people will recognize and they will make contact, to actually further look at ways of commercializing. And if I can give one idea, I'm currently organizing. I'm the organizing chairman of the Malaysian International Water Convention, which is supposed to be held in September 20th to 24th. It's 5 days convention, and in that convention we got something called poster competition. So poster competition are open to all the universities. So anything creative you have in this water sector, including AI, because water sector requires a lot of automation and new ideas of IoT, to actually make the sector much more efficient. You come up with the say your remote sensing system, or your sensor systems, or whatever, water quality monitoring system, you promote as a poster. And this exhibition is visited now. Because of COVID, everything is done online. A lot of people will participate. If they capture your poster, they will make contact with you, and this is where you this is the first step, going through the challenges. Of course, your poster itself will not straight away create the big vision which you want, but that will be the steps which you need to take and progress forward.
Okay, thank you both of the panels. Maybe we can have our next question. Okay, now we have the question from Adrian Afzal, specifically for Prof. Hanifa. What if that engineer came from a non-Apex university such as UMP, UNIMEP? Do they have the same credentials as UTM, for example?
Definitely yes. As I mentioned, at the end of the day, a degree is a degree. Whether you come from Oxford, whether you come from Harvard, MIT, I've also interviewed people, a lot of foreign graduates, from top universities. But I think when come to work, the attitude and the aptitude is very important. While they have the brains, they are very smart, but if they can work with a group and a community, so I think all these universities, they're all, if you talk about engineering, their engineering syllabus are actually censored by the accreditation board, by the Board of Engineers. So whether you come from UTM, UMP, or whatever, as long as being accredited, your degree is recognized. So when you come to the real working world, I think at the interview stage, if you start speaking broken English, you cannot even answer direct questions, you cannot give an idea where the interviewer will be convinced with your this one. you don't know anything apart from engineering, like basic management or finance principles, then you might lose out, So to me, when we interview people, it doesn't matter which university you come. I've interviewed two candidates, one from local university and one from RMIT, in one of the many interviews. I choose the one which from the local university, not the RMIT. RMIT, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, supposed to be a top-notch university, but again, I'm not looking at your degree. I'm not looking at the paper. I'm looking at what you can contribute. So you don't have to worry if you're not from not the apex universities. You are in the equal playing field. So you just have to get your soft skills and your attitude right.
Okay, thank you. I hope the answer will put Afzal at ease. Okay, next we have from Siti Zizi. Salam and hi. I came from language and communication background, teaching in technical university. So she is currently teaching in technical university. To what extent English language and communication skills are important in industry, in your opinion? So maybe we can go to Dr. Faisal.
Okay, to answer that, it's very important. We need someone that able to help our staff to communicate in English. Because sometimes we receive clients from the overseas, and we cannot avoid to communicate in English. But most of our clients in Malaysia, we have some degree of tolerance where we're able to speak in bahasa or in English. But to answer your questions, yeah, first and foremost, we have those technical staff that we employ, but at the same time, they need to communicate sometimes with the clients. And without English or without something that a very good communications, per se, that they fail to communicate with the clients, and that will give us a lot of headaches to balance back the understanding with our technical staff and also with the clients. So coming back to the questions, yes, and in fact we need to have someone that able to help us to develop that skill to our talents. Yeah, it's come back to you, Mr. Moderator.
So, Doctor, maybe those who are expert in language and communication background, actually, in which department will the company put these people? Dr. Faisal.
Definitely in the marketing and sales, and as well as on the customer service, because those people that will communicate and interact with the client directly. But when it comes to technicals, if a technical problem happens, we need to have these technical people to communicate with them as well. So that's why the problem always happen, always occur.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Now, can we have another question? Okay, we have one from Amir Mustaqim. I have one question to both of our panels. Okay, in your opinion, does every engineer, especially new graduates, the fresh graduates, nowadays need knowledge and skills on AI or data analytics? I think we can go first with Prof. Prof. Hanifa, please welcome.
I think we are currently in the 21st century, and we are under IR 4.0. So we are no more in the steam engine in the revolutionary generation. I'm not saying you must, but if you want to be successful, I think AI and data analytics is a very key to your future successes. So a lot of the things which are currently done manual needs certain level of innovation. I mean, just like our handphones, I think most of us now without handphones, you find it very miserable, because handphone is a tool now. It's not for just communicating. You can do a lot of work and so on. So AI and data analytics, having the extra knowledge and expertise will actually pave your way forward for more successes. So I would encourage every engineering student, in fact, I will encourage any students to be proficient with AI and data analytics.
Okay, can we have Dr. Faisal as the expert in AI?
My answers also come along with Prof answers. Yes. First and foremost, it's not necessary for you to know about AI and data analytics, but it's worthwhile for you to know, have a certain level of understanding and experience on the AI and data analytics. At least you read something, right? At least you read some books, or you know about this AI and data analytics thing. At least the step of data analytics, what the step of data analytics, because this is going to give you a value for you, when you go to do some job hunting whatsoever. For example, maybe you compete with someone in the interview sessions. There's a few other candidates along with you, and suddenly you have some additional knowledge on the AI compared to others. That's giving some value for you, so that the prospective employer can see, this guy has something, can give us more other than the other candidates. Okay, besides of the attitude lah, as I mentioned by Prof, which is I also agree. So yeah, in principle, it's not necessary, but if you think that this can give value for you, it's worthwhile. It's never been waste of time for you to learn more things. Thank you.
Yes, that's true. I believe I agree with both of our panels today. Okay, next question we have from Zaki Al-Gadi. Is it the mentor has to be related to our special area, or is it okay to be from another field? I think we can point this question to Prof. Hanifa. Please welcome, Prof.
Actually, it depends on where you're working. If you are working in a real engineering consulting firm, and you are actually asked to design a bridge, of course, your mentor must be from the same field. But if you're actually, after going through the first few years of engineering and you're working on a corporate organization, it doesn't really matter, who is your mentor. For example, most of the big companies, the bosses are not engineers. The bosses are accountants or corporate people. So your ability to learn from them and to compete with them is very important. So if you don't have these extra skills, then you lose out. But yes, in the beginning, before you get your professional affiliation, for example, if you're an engineer, you want to be a professional engineer, an IR, you have to be mentored by a professional engineer. You cannot be mentored by, even the board will not recognize. Now, once you already got that, when you want to go into, a wider area, then not necessary, And even within engineering, if you are from the, chemical engineering background, previously you have to work under a chemical engineer for you to submit your PE papers, But today, I think it's much more flexible, As long as that person is also specialized in the same area, you could be the mentor.
Okay, how about Dr. Faisal?
Yeah, when it comes to the word mentor, usually those who have first time heard about mentor, they would think about some kind of formal relationship between someone with experience or whatsoever. But for my definition of mentor is friends, something that I can make friend of, that I can ask when I having some problems. Regardless of the age, regardless of this backgrounds, I just need to have a number of friends that I can refer to if I have some problems. My practice when having a mentor is not, I need to see you in this slot time, what do you available? No, it's not that way of having that kind of mentor. It's not even successful to start with. Having a mentor is like, what we are going to have some coffee tea this afternoon. Is it okay for you? Okay, fine. Okay, we have coffee time and we talk everything, almost everything for the entire afternoon. So it's about what I can mention from one of my mentors. It's all about hablum minan nas, our relationship with humans. It's all important. So this is how I interact with my mentors. Coming back to your questions, is it related for the field? Yes, I agree with Prof. Hanifa. If there's some problem or some difficulty that you're having in that particular area, you need to refer to those which you consider as your mentor that able to help you out. That's the thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to both our panels. I think that will answer Zaki Al-Ghadi's question just now. Okay, next, from Joshua Dagil. What is the role of computational modeling in transition from research to industry? This is a very technical question. I think maybe Dr. Faisal can start first.
Okay, all right. I believe that when we talk about computational modeling, you're having difficulty to digest or in terms of tools, because perhaps you are just using tools that are available in the markets, and from there you think that you see that you don't have anything besides using the tools. This is the thing. On the part of computational modeling, the tool is only the tools that help us to deliver our solutions. The most important on the computational modeling is how you able to translate the real world applications into the model, and from there you able to simulate that particular process into a computer versions or the simulations, and from there you can tweak some parameters out of that, and from there you able to give some suggestions of how to improve that process. So tools, if you're using software, is just to make everything smoother. But the most important part is the knowledge on how to translating the real world operations back then into the computer, which is you need to translate into the models, and then after that you need to have the simulation running, and then you need to have some ideas of which part of this simulation that you can able to improve. And then from there, you need to apply back to the real world. So this is the process that you can bring into the industries, not the tools that you are using. So, for example, if you're doing some, let's say, Prof. Hanifa look into this water treatment. So we have this water treatment in IWK, for example. Correct me if I'm wrong, Prof. You have this process in the treatment, treating the water from wastewater into cleaner water. So you come up with these computational models, and then do the modeling and do the simulations, and you bring back to IWK. You say that you need to improve this, and that. That is how you can bring your research into the industries. It must be in the output point. It must be in the form of the outputs. Okay, so because the process, you know the process. So I guess that would answer the questions. Come back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Faisal. Prof. Hanifa, would you like to add something?
Silence, Prof.
Prof.
Oh, sorry. I think to answer the question, the role of computational modeling, I think is definitely very useful, very important. And then in the case of the example which Dr. Faisal quoted just now, a wastewater treatment plant, for example, if you have this modeling and computer modeling, for example, you want to actually look at just now I talked about electricity cost is very high. So you want to reduce the electricity cost. So by actually computing the running hours of this machine and the speed and whatever and the mixing, put all into that model, then it will show that at the end of the day, if I use this model, I can save 5 to 10% energy cost in one plant. So how do I actually stimulate that and use it in many other plants? Just to share my experience when I was the CEO of Indoor Water, and manage 7,000 over plants. Imagine to the company, to manage 7,000 over plants using the right computational model, which has been researched and then been proven in a pilot trial. I can actually save, for example, the electricity bill is about close to 300 million a year. If I can save 10%, I save 30 million. I give back 1 million to UTM to actually do research, So that's how, can we have a, industry university benefit. So it's like a win-win. If the university can go to the industry and say, let me test this in your industry, we share the profits based on the success basis. So they trial and they find the savings. So maybe you can share from the savings. So yes, computer modeling is good, but must not be too theoretical. The inputs into this model must be realistic, because a lot of the models which I've seen, there's a lot of too many assumptions, and then becomes not really practical.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I believe we will have our last question from the audience. Okay, Assalamualaikum, Doctor. In my opinion, university, in a bracket, research industry collaboration requires careful management and can bring many benefits. Are there any shining examples of fruitful collaboration between universities, industry partners, and startup? For instance, maybe he asked for an example that is successful. I think we can put this to Dr. Faisal first.
Okay. All right. So I really love these questions. Okay, how are we able to have this successful collaboration between university and industries? So back then, before 2019, okay, before we having these companies, I tried to approach the industry, but definitely fails, because during that time I tried to bring the research into their tables, into the industry, to the PCO's tables, but definitely they don't buy in on that, because they don't see any value that they can put the research into in the actions of their operations. So from there I learned in the hard way that we need to tap into the value that we need to bring to the industry that able to help them to solving their problems. That is the fundamental questions. That's the problem statement that I need to answer. So coming back to your questions, the university industry collaborations only can be happen and be successfully delivered when we identify that value. So, for example, back then when we start the business and we successfully been approached by Petronas as our first client. So what they ask us to do is to do this predictive maintenance. How they able to predict the machines before it fails. Because currently the software that they run not able to predict. They have some plugin that they need to buy, they need to purchase, but it's very expensive. And from there, they need to have some these operations, and because of every operations in the manufacturing have different nature, so we need to have this R&D. And this is where my company during that times as a startup become the bridge between the industries and bring in some expert from the universities. And 2020 we have another project with the company with that clients, and from there there's a different project that before that we do electrical generator sets. The second project we got is for falling. It's more on this thermodynamics whatsoever. So definitely we cannot able to do that because we are not in the thermodynamic experts back in our company. From there, when we got the projects and we identify some experts back in the universities, and then we try to make them point them into a rooms. So we set up a meetings between these experts and these these companies, these industries, and from there we comes up with some kind of technical committee that have this the problem provider and also the expert from the universities. And from there, we leverage the income that we got from the projects back to the universities, and to provide that in the form of research grant for the expert that we call in for that project. So from there, it can happen as a startup in between of this big giant company and the universities, or it can happen directly from the university experts, the professors, the researchers from the university directly to this big company. But yeah, I agree that we need to have a very careful management, because the industry really need that solution as soon as possible. In our case, not less than 3 months. But the universities, usually it takes years just on the part of management only. So we need to look into how we can fit in between these two requirements. So the management is very important. In our case, we contact the university, the UTM, and find a way how we are able to serve the client within the required time. So to answer your question, the university industry collaborations can be successful in 2 ways, either in top down or bottom up. So for the bottom up, we get the projects, we provide facilities between the industry and the universities, and from there we need to deliver the project, or at the same time we need the university to open up a little bit on the part of operations, so that we can meet the expectation from the industry. So that's how we able to the university industry.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Faizal. Before we close the Q&A session with Prof. Hanifa's answer, I would like to know whether there is any means for the audience to get to you, Dr. Faizal. Is it email or any social media platform?
Sure. You can get my name and search to the social media, because my name is so special. Only you can get my profile right away when you search my name. So we can connect to either Facebook or LinkedIn. But for closer or more close connections, you can contact me right away. I only have one phone number, 017-341-3411. How can I put it? Is it in the private comment or in the comments? Should I? And also my email, afnizanfaizal@cnext.my or utm.my. Anyhow, you can use any of my emails. Should be no problem. So I put this in the chat, so that the moderator or the organizer can make use of this, as well as my phone number. So I have no secrets, especially to my wife, because I don't have any troubles to share my phone numbers. You can contact me anytime, so that we can talk more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Faizal. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think we can move on finally to Prof. Hanifa. So please welcome, Prof.
Okay, to answer Afza Ijam's question, whether there's any shining examples, I think there's many, real shining examples, not necessarily from UTM, local universities or what. Many of the research, have actually evolved into, real application for the benefit of the industry. And under today's circumstances, you can see under COVID-19, one of the research which is a shining example is, of course, the vaccine. And many of this vaccine was researched at universities. For example, AstraZeneca, from University of Oxford, research, and then many Sinovac and so on from some of the Chinese universities. So definitely, there's many shining examples. But what I like to share my personal experience is, like I mentioned earlier, I went into a branch of civil engineering which was not fully researched, which is water. And when I went into indoor water, we started with a clean sheet of paper, nothing we have. So back in '94, when we first started, one of the things which I motored to have a collaboration with the university, and I think way back in '94, '95, we signed an agreement with 2 anchor universities. One is with UPM, University Putra Malaysia, and one is with UTM. So under that collaboration signing, we identified wastewater treatment, the liquid stream. Liquid stream is all the water treatment part. We gave it to UTM and we give them some funding. I think it's about $1 million to do 8 to 10 research projects. And then we gave another, I think about 1 million to UPM to study the sludge. Sludge is the byproduct of wastewater treatment, you know. And sludge is something dirty, nobody wants, and you know, they just dispose it to the landfill. So we want to actually convert this sludge into a beneficial use. So UTM, UPM, very specialized in soil science, we give it to them, you know, to study. Today, after 25 over years, you know, we have a lot of backup information to actually commercialize technologies and also to commercialize, you know, the sludge. A lot of the sludge, not only from the science point of view, it can be used as fertilizer, it can be used as fuel cell, can be converted to energy, but we also managed to get the social aspect. For example, getting the fatwa, you know, getting the Islamic jurisdiction on whether it's halal ke haram, you know, or this one. You know. So we have gone to that extent and got all the fatwa, and we can actually share, you know, the evolution of green technology. Green technology is, you know, putting back the resource which has been used into recycle and into the circular economy. So I think we are in an era just like AI, you know, beginning. The circular economy is also just starting. Now, if you can actually look at recycling many of these things, from plastics to, you know, water. Water, as we all know, is H2O. When the water gets polluted, it's H2O plus plus plus. Use technology to remove the plus plus plus, which is the impurity. You give back H2O. Now, so if you use good technology, you recover back the water. You can use it back for industry and many things. So just like the example I gave on Tenaga, you know, if you buy electricity from Tenaga is this much. If you can sell cheaper, the industry will be interested. Likewise, if you can produce water which is cheaper than the current water company's cost, definitely the industry will be, you know, interested in buying this water. So this is where the research must not be solely looked from the engineering point of view. You know, you must look at the commercialization, and to do commercialization, you must understand legal aspects, and you must also understand the financing aspects, the economics of things. So, you know, yes, if you want to be shine, you must have this extra, you know, just like the people from UTM who graduated, I showed you, you know, although they took town planning or they took engineering, today they shine because of the extras they have, you know. So that is, in order to shine and to commercialize, I think we have to go beyond that classroom sort of, you know, research. We have to really go to the applied, you know, fundamentals or applied sharing, you know? And that's where you gain the, you know, the success. And yes, just now the question is, you know, you know, the secretary can share my email contacts. You can actually contact, or they can even WhatsApp me. You know, you know, the secretary can share whoever requires it.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Okay, that's it for our Q&A. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is all from our panels today. They have humbled themselves to share their experiences and insights for us researchers to adapt to the inevitable changes. I reckon our viewers today are inspired to follow the footsteps of those who have succeeded. Sometimes, people require a role model whom they can follow, and those role models are none other than our panels today. And again, I would like to thank our panels for your precious time and sharing. I pray that this little effort of organizing such sharing will be one of the reasons for our students or researchers to change and adapt accordingly. And I think I leave that to our audiences to think and act. So we have reached the end of the session and we're about to close the curtain. And with that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and thank you. Stay safe, kita jaga kita. See you next time. Now I will pass the session to our MC.
Okay, thank you very much for the fruitful sharing from both our speakers, Prof. Hanifa and Dr. Faizal. We would like to thank our moderator, Mr. Muhammad Haris Asraf, for hosting the interactions within the forum. Let us have a photo session to enlighten this memorable moment. I believe our photography team is ready. Okay, on my count. 1, 2, smile. Freestyle pose. 1, 2, smile. Okay. As the saying goes, all good things come to an end. Our precious forum session has come to its end. So we would like to express our appreciation to the speakers, IRTS Haji Muhammad Hanifa, TS Dr. Afnizan Faizal, and Mr. Muhammad Haris by presenting these e-certificates. So now I would like to present this e-certificate to our speaker, TS Dr. Afnizan Faizal bin Abdullah. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you for the organizer.
We move on to our next. Thank you very much to IRTS Haji Muhammad Hanifa bin Haji Abdul Hamid. Thank you so much, Prof. Okay, last
Sorry,
but not
actually I
least.
cannot hear.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear the MC.
All right, okay. Okay, last but not least, I present this e-certificate to our moderator, Mr. Muhammad Haris Asraf bin Hassan. Okay. Thank you again to both speakers and moderator. I believe we have come to the end of our session. Before we leave, we would like to make a few announcements. The closing ceremony of Research Carnival Week 2021 will be held today at 12 p.m. via Facebook Live, PGSS UTM, Research Carnival Week 2021 and School of Graduate Studies, and the YouTube PG Support Program. The final results of 3 thesis and GREX competition will be officially announced during the live session of the closing ceremony. So stay tuned. See you on the closing ceremony. So we end our forum with Tasbih Kafarah and Suratul As. Thank you, everyone.
Prof. Hanifa?
Yeah.
Maybe
Sorry,
we
I
can.
couldn't hear. I couldn't hear what was said.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear, yeah.
Okay, right. Maybe we can exchange our numbers and our contacts, maybe because so that we can contact after this.
Yeah, okay.